morning glory. Say there, stop that yawning. A brand new day is dawning. Pull up the shade and let the sun come through. Good morning glory. Spend about an hour underneath a shower and keep on singing like the birdies do.
Ladies and gentlemen, be prepared. This week's episode of Books of the Week is in Hypnovista. A new process we have here at the Cedarburg Public Library. That's right, it's Books of the Week, a show that talks about the books you could or should be reading, but maybe not. My name is Jeff Messerman. Traditionally, I'm at the Cedarburg Public Library. This morning, I'm in my sunroom, and across from me, in his very posh room, a little change of venue, is Steve Donahue, a book critic out of Boston, Massachusetts. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, everybody.
Very exciting to be back here with you. We are going to discuss all sorts of nonfiction, and then a little fiction, and then something called a wild card. And I'll let you discover what that is yourself.
I'm assuming that the fact that you're in the sunroom means that you've been fired once again.
Look at my work shirt today. I got a Nintendo controller on. It's very.
We have to go through this. The break room donuts are for everyone.
I will fight all of them. So very exciting to be back here. And Steve, did you know that there is a new Lord of the Rings season out there? Have you partaken of it? I had to ask you right away off the top because you had some very pointed observations on the last season.
I watched 2 episodes.
How'd you do?
They're absolutely awful in every conceivable way. So not a sense, like if you go to your kids' elementary school performance of The Sunflower Meets the Tree, well, okay, the costumes will be bad.
I was always the tree.
The acting will be bad. The writing will be bad. But you could, if you draw way back, you could say, well, at least 100 years ago, qualified workmen built the stage correctly. There is literally nothing in this show that you can say that about. It is horrible on literally every level.
Why are they doing this? I mean, I know why they're doing it, but
yeah, $1 billion has been spent on this travesty.
There's no quality control, though. I mean, you don't have like my underwear says inspected by 12. Where's 12 on this show, Steve?
The worst part of it, the worst part of season 2 of Rings of Power, which is an absolute abomination. Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, would sue if he were alive. He wouldn't just be disappointed. He wouldn't say they could have got this right or that right. He'd sue.
Yeah.
The worst part of the reception of this second season is all the blue-haired psychos on social media saying, well, see, now you're all praising it. No one is praising it. No one is praising it. No one is. That whole story arc about how you all hated the first season, but now you love it is wrong. That is just a conscious lie. No one is praising this thing who watches it. And the people who praise it don't watch it. They aren't watching it. Their viewership numbers are not present when viewership polls of any kind are taken, which you'll note they aren't.
Oh, well, that makes it easy. Oh, my God. So you will not be returning to the well for the remainder of the season, not just out of morbid curiosity? Or
3 episodes.
Okay.
I should watch all 3, but I don't know what I was thinking. I was right completely in my post-mortem on the first season of Rings of Power, which is that the only way to do a second season is to completely scrap the first season and start over. There was literally nothing on any level right about the first season of Rings of Power. So you can't build on it. And they didn't listen to me. Nobody ever listens to me.
Jeff Bezos strikes again. Well, what can you do? You know what you can do? You can actually, to make yourself feel better, you can watch Books of the Week. We won't offend your sensibility. Oh, well,
we will offend your sensibility. But at least we won't. Oh my God! It cooked like in a toaster. Oh my God! Don't tell me. Let me guess. The Wisconsin version of that would have a special addition that you could add to the grill so that when they pop up, they pop directly into your mouth.
Oh, spring-loaded bacon is
Spring-loaded bacon.
That's almost biblical around here. So.
In the second season of Rings of Power, Galadriel is facing all sorts of peril, and she's, I think, at one point knocked to the ground, which is more than ever happened to her in the first season. Maybe has a little makeup smudge. But what is the point of that? What is the point of imperiling this character in any way when in the first season you showed that she could stand a volcanic eruption? She is standing directly in the path of an on-flowing wave of pyroclastic flow, and it doesn't even muss her hair. So she's from Krypton. So what's the point of pretending that you're imperiling her?
It's entirely possible that the writers of the second season also didn't watch the first season. That's all I can think, Well, you know what? All of this is their problem. Our problem is at hand. We're trying to do this show. But normally, like I mentioned at the top of the show, we do a nonfiction title and then a fiction offering. We actually might do multiples today because I'd like to actually review something that's very popular in our library, and that's the thriller genre. There's a bunch of new thrillers that have landed on our library. We'll see how Steve feels about those. And then the wild cards. So, Steve, start us out with what I think hopes to be probably the most impressive nonfiction title we've ever had on this show. Please. You can do it.
Melania Trump has a book with her name on it.
Yes.
And believe it or not, that's how we're starting the show.
Well, goodbye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. It's been fun.
I read a lot of political memoirs. This is not a political memoir. I read a lot of campaign books. This is not a campaign book. I read a lot of autobiographies of contemporary figures. This is not an autobiography of a contemporary figure.
What the hell is this, Steve?
I honestly do not know. And that is not hyperbole. I don't know what this item is. In a Webster's Dictionary technical sense of the word, it is a book because it is a long collection of printed pages. But beyond that, I don't know what this is. I have no idea what this is. Touch down anywhere on anything that could help us to describe what this thing is, and you fall all the way through to the bottom of a black hole. Melania Trump cannot read English. Melania Trump cannot write English. Melania Trump was not a good first lady. The only campaign for which she's remembered contained a grammatical error in a campaign slogan of only 2 words. Best is not a standalone word in English. It's an easy mistake you could make if you didn't understand the language, but nothing is best. Something is the best. Best is not a standalone word in English. You are the best. Oh, that's the best. It's the kind of mistake that class taker working hard to get their GED in order to qualify would make. It's the kind of mistake a learner of English makes. And that was the name of her campaign slogan, which I might add was vetted by 30 people who aren't a native speaker of English. They did it anyway. And why? Because she was incredibly hated. And also hated by her husband, the president, and also openly hates her husband. And does not live with him, and has not lived with him in a long time, and did not visit him when he was on one of his many criminal trials, is obviously not going to defend him, and is obviously staying with him for a prenup agreement. But also who had nothing but contempt for the White House, for the ceremonial duties of a first lady.
Yeah.
We're not allowed on this show to mention the adjective that she appended to the word Christmas, but it wasn't beloved. Let's just say it wasn't beloved Christmas. It added an adjective, at least her Eastern European equivalent of that adjective. So given all of that, she wasn't present as a first lady. She doesn't read English. She doesn't write English. She barely speaks English. She doesn't like her husband. She has no knowledge of what he did when he was in office. He hates her. Given all of that, what is this? What is this book? I have no idea.
Well, so you've read it. You have read it cover to cover, every page, every word. You must have come. You must have come away with something.
Believe me, those of you who have been watching the show and already knows, I never react this way. I
No.
understand books. So one of the few things I do understand. I understand books. I do not know what this thing is.
We even figured out the Pope Francis's book a few years ago.
Yep.
Even though it was a struggle, we came away saying it's an old man going fishing who's talking about how much fun it's going fishing. I mean, so we had here. You do seem to be completely in a void.
Know what this is now, because it's connected with Trump world. I automatically want to think that whatever it is will be connected with what it can get, because Trump world is completely soullessly transactional.
Yes.
What can this get? We already know not only the present of this book, but its future. We know its future thanks to the president in question's stupid son, who wrote a book and then gamed the system and then cheated to make it a bestseller. That is all documented. The people who helped him to do that cheating maneuver have gone public rather than go to jail and lose their future in the publishing industry. She's going to do the same thing. This is going.
So this is basically a Trump stake.
It's basically a Trump stake, but she doesn't like him.
No.
She hates him.
Well,
every word in this book is a lie. Every one. We were embodying the will of the people. She doesn't know about the people. She doesn't like her adopted country.
No.
And I might add, there is no actual documentary evidence that she's a legal citizen. And on and on and on. All of it. I'm a trickle doll of I don't know what the hell this is.
Sure.
You keep hoping that you get to the kernel in the center. Is it going to make her money? No. It is not going to make her money because no one's going to read it.
No.
Is it going to do well? No, because the publishing industry is now on guard for the kind of thing she's going to try to pull, which is to buy shed loads of this thing falsely under LLCs or stalking horses or whatnot in order to game the system of the New York Times to make it a New York Times bestseller. Yeah. The New York Times already knows she's going to do that because her son-in-law did that.
Right. Yes.
And if a light were shown at all on the last 5 books that were written for Donald Trump, it would be proven that he did the same thing.
Right. Absolutely. So if I walk into Barnes & Noble this weekend, will there be a Melania standee of some sort, do you think?
I don't think there'll be a standee at Mar-a-Lago, where the standee actually attends functions with her nominal husband because she won't set foot in the place. So there has to be a life-size cardboard cutout standee of her.
Sure.
I might add that the life-size cardboard cutout of Melania Trump actually scored better on the citizenship test. This is a public figure of contempt and ridicule. She is known to be stupid. She is known to be mercenary. She is known to hate her husband. She is known to hate politics. She is known to hate the Trump administration. All these things are known. And thanks to her one campaign as first lady, she's also known to be illiterate in English. So what is this thing? What is it?
It's like
it's not a memoir of her time in the White House. What is it? It's not a marketing gimmick. No one knows who she is or cares.
Are there illustrations, photographs?
The copy that I have, I'm sure that it will have an inset, a black and white photo or color of her in the various highlights of her time as first lady.
Sure.
What were those highlights? She wore a jacket saying, "I don't give a crap about you." Okay, well, there's that. There was that. What other color photos could be in her book? The 5 fake Melanias? I guess those could be in the book. Or what about the time when she took the careful, tasteful handiwork of 2 generations of sculpting the Rose Garden and took a bulldozer to it so that it would look like the kind of cheap Eurotrash shopping mall she grew up with and in and for and paid by. There'll be pictures of those things in the book.
My goodness. Wow. So this is really a unique phenomenon we're talking about here today.
I have never encountered a book where I ended it and had literally nowhere to put my feet down. She was not involved in this in any way at any step along the line. It is not going to make money. It is not going to be well regarded. She's not well regarded. It's not going to change any minds. It's not connected with a campaign. And also, you could go even meta further out because there is no campaign.
That's true.
Candidate just said, "I don't need you to vote for me." That's therefore not a campaign. Wow. So the more you peel back this thing, the less thing there is. So
Oh my God. You know what I love? I love when I go to my local grocery store and you'll see they'll have some kind of rack jobber that comes in and throws like recent books in for like $3. Like I can find 90 copies of Donald Rumsfeld's book in this cardboard bin for $3 each. I feel like in about a year I can get many copies of this.
Rumsfeld, A, was a gigantic egomaniac, and B, thought that he had a reputation to burnish
Right.
in the wake of 2 failed wars that he championed. He
Right.
thought he had a reputation to burnish, and he was an egomaniac. Melania Trump is not an egomaniac. She's actually the property of her husband, so she can't be an egomaniac. And
no ego.
doesn't have a reputation to burnish. What reputation? No one knows anything about her.
No, no.
For the last 30 public appearances, 21 of them have been digitally verifiably not her. Even when you're talking about whether or not she's going to the local Saks Fifth Avenue, it still peels back the layers until there's no one there at all.
No one there at all, exactly. Well, you know, it's a shame that Melania didn't use this for her author photo, because I really think
that woman has a story to tell.
Yes, she does.
I think it's largely a frightening story, but it's a genuine story. She has a story to tell.
Yes, indeed. It's amazing. She's almost an American, like, Kaiser Soze figure. We don't know what this is.
Except he was interesting.
Yeah, he was interesting. Yes, exactly. Yes. It's remarkable.
Or that scene in Seven when Kevin Spacey's character yells out to detective,
right.
because he is the serial killer.
Right.
Only this book, the equivalent for this book would be that he yells out detective and then he says, I serial killer. Because he's forgotten a basic piece of English grammar.
I was busy being best.
Yeah, being best. I am elaborately killing 7 victims. You see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 11. Oh, right, I got that wrong. Well, nobody cares. I don't care. Do you?
Oh my goodness. I feel like there's
this books of the week with a manifest failure and also a historic occasion. I don't know what this is. I have no idea what this item is.
It may have been a failure for you, Steve, but I think for me and for the viewers, this is a rousing success.
Please tell me you aren't going to get this thing at the library.
I didn't even know this damn thing existed until you sent me the picture yesterday in email, and I thought it was a joke. Like I told Steve prior to the show, I thought this was a Mad Magazine spoof.
Maybe it won't get printed. I believe its embargo date is the 1st of October. Maybe it just won't happen. Maybe it actually doesn't exist.
Then you will have, what a piece you'll have. Talk about a fundraiser for CPL, the Friends of the Library. We'll sell your galley.
Wow. I'd bury it in the backyard, but I'd be worried about what would sprout if I buried it in the backyard.
One of those trees from the Wizard of Oz.
It'd be a really skinny tree that's obviously had work done.
And in the bark it says, I don't give a crap. It's amazing. This is remarkable. I guess normally we say after a review like this, we'll say, well, available at your Cedarburg Public Library. But we don't know.
There are divisive figures in public life. I understand that. But in whether our viewers like to hear it or not, there is in America right now an enormous, extremely corrosive personality cult. If you have a picture of Kamala Harris gagged and kidnapped, spray painted to the back of your truck, you are a cult member. You're in a cult.
Yeah.
You are in a cult. It doesn't matter if it has 100 million members. You're in a cult. If we leave that cult aside, they don't have any money because they're busy buying his trading cards.
Right.
Leave that cult aside. Everyone in the normal world, not only in America, but around the world, considers Melania Trump to be a contemptible and laughable figure, a trivial, idiotic footnote in an absurd period in U.S. history. They aren't going to buy this book. They aren't interested in any of the lies that are in it.
No.
Her childhood in Slovenia. I want anecdotes about her childhood in Slovenia when all of those anecdotes are lies. When all of them are lies, go to the popular press in Slovenia and ask them what role her father played in her childhood the minute she hit puberty. Are any of those stories in this book? No. Are they repeated in this book, even though they're heavily documented in Slovenia? No, they are not. They're not mentioned.
Amazing. This is historic in all the wrong ways.
I would say we should move on to fiction, but we've been talking about fiction.
I was just going to say, and worse, we're going to talk about thrillers, but this is kind of a thriller too. So, I mean, the theme of the day. Wow, Melania.
A Hollywood thriller where the identity of the main character is carefully kept under wraps for the whole of the movie, and then eventually the hero reaches for the hood of the character, pulls it off, and it's a camera facing the audience. You in the audience. It is, the whole movie has literally evaporated.
That is one hell of a good movie, Steve. We got to work on the screenplay for that. I like that.
I should have used movies as an example with you. I've got a better example. Imagine you go to your local Krispy Kreme and you get your normal breakfast, which is a baker's dozen of donuts, and you get it home and you cut the tape, the little piece of tape they put on there, and you open it up, and it's your sales receipt.
Okay, now that's okay. I get it now. I understand now. Oh my God. Well, moving on. We are a mystery and thriller town, Cedarburg, and you know it. And
that is. You've mentioned this before, that mysteries and cozy mysteries, thrillers and cozy mysteries are enormously popular.
There's not a lot going on in Cedarburg.
Sorry.
We have
it is a whole 10 months until the next tractor pull, isn't
it? we do offer ice skating in the winter.
Yes, you get to work.
Exactly.
It loses its allure when you have to get to work.
So with that in mind, I thought we would cover some of the newer thrillers that have hopped off the truck and landed at your local library. Steve,
when it comes time for you to look at, I mean, you're the guy at the chicken switch for buying books for the library.
Indeed.
You feel absolutely no. I mean, if you're looking at a World War II history or a big biography, you might feel a little bit of tension. But when it comes to this sort of stuff, you know you're getting a winner.
I just click buy. It's like muscle memory at this point, Steve.
Yeah, the only muscle you've got. I might add.
Hey, now see here. I used one of these for years, these Nintendo controllers. I have incredibly developed thumbs.
Again, I like I mentioned with the donuts in the break room, I will also repeat that pork rinds are not a protein source.
Hey, see here. How dare you disparage my dinner yesterday? So let's look at some of these thrillers. Let's leaf through them, and we're going to start with book number 986 of this series by J.D. Robb. Yes. It's another In Death.
Yes, my producer showed me some of these pictures ahead of time, and I said, if you show me books on camera that I have not read, I will fire you so fast. Because Lori is waiting. She's waiting for her chance.
Yes. Yes, Lori is. Here she is.
Oh, my. That really is. That really is. That's exactly how the employment industry describes her. Oh, my. Well, no, we're going to have a number of Steve failures. This whole book is going to be Steve failures. And this is one of them. I've stuck through with this series for about 10 books, and then I just stopped. And, 10 books into the series, I was thinking something without having the words to describe it because it was years and years and years ago. 10 books into the series, I finished book number 10 and thought, what we would now say is that was certainly written by AI. Yes. Now we have concepts to explain it, but
yeah.
Roberts, she writes probably 50 books a year. It's long since past the point where anyone is seriously believing that she's doing any of this. But I have not followed the series. Does it have loyal fans at the library?
Kinda, yeah. A handful. It's not like they're over the moon or you get holds that are racked up and you can't keep it in stock, especially since it's okay if you miss this one because in 12 minutes there'll be another one.
So I don't have anything to say about what's it, pork rinds in death?
Yeah, pork rinds. That's exactly right. Toaster bacon in death. Yeah, I read the first. I read book one, and then realized
has that feel of someone who has success in one genre who wants to try stretching their legs in another genre. It definitely had that feeling, and I like that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a strange series too because it pretends to be sci-fi almost because it's futuristic-ish.
Tiny little bits of it here and there.
It felt like Miss Nora may have watched Blade Runner once and said, "Ooh, I could do something sort of in there." I mean, there aren't like flying cars, but it's just the whole thing is sort of half-baked. And this is me responding only to the first book. I'm assuming maybe the souffle rose a little bit over the next 900 books, but I don't know. But people like it's mostly romance. There's a lot of romance going on in here, and a lot of hanky panky, as our parents or Steve would say. So. It wasn't me. It was Melania.
Lori said something very similar. I told her, "Don't you worry, my darling. You are lovely, but you don't have to worry about me making a pass at you." And she said, "Oh, you sweet thing. Is it time for your fruit cup?" I wasn't happy to hear that. Just because I told her I wasn't going to make a pass at her doesn't mean I want her to agree.
So
I don't want her to know, yeah, that ship has sailed.
Lori, go away. So that's Passions in Death, to get it correctly. I've got two I'm going to hurl at you right now. Steve, maybe the operative word might be hurl, and that is Sherry Lapina, of course, who's very popular in my library, and this book called The Most by Jessica Anthony, which seems to be getting a little traction out there.
Yes. The Sherry Lapina I did not read because I'm kind of, sort of, not entirely, but kind of, sort of mentally embargoing all the Me Kill Now titles.
Mm-hmm.
That is the current fad in thrillers, and I just...
What have you done, Steve? What have you done?
I now, Me Kill Now. I know it doesn't have any reflection on the book, but I don't like fads in publishing. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
But The Most is very good.
Oh, very good. Okay, good to hear.
I liked it a lot. It botches the ending, but I liked it a lot. Does it have holes at the library? Are people interested in it?
It's starting. You can see when the groundswell starts, like the the online catalog starts to rumble a little bit. And I think The Most is going to take off. Yeah.
I picture it being made into a sappy movie. I'm hoping that it doesn't. That happened with Where the Crawdads Sing.
Right.
It was made into a sappy movie. I enjoy the sight of Harris Dickinson in a tank top as much as anybody. But
anybody.
It's a smarter book than that. I'm hoping it's not the only smart book on our list.
Well, stay tuned, everybody. Cool. Well, The Most had got a little bit of. Got the least from so that's
you'll
good.
Enjoy it. Until the end, you'll enjoy it.
Okay, excellent. Moving to another stalwart who seems to crank them out is Jonathan and Jesse Kellerman, because Jonathan, I guess, can't type on his own anymore. It's called The Lost Coast, and then next to that, Nina Simon's Mother-Daughter Murder Night, which has ample holds and is definitely doing very well currently in our library. I think. It looks like
of these things. Do people tell you? How would anybody know? Jonathan Kellerman's been writing for 30 years.
Yeah.
How did anybody know about the mother-daughter murder thing?
That was another one of those kind of out of nowhere type things. I don't think, 'cause I initially bought one and that seemed ample. And then next thing you know, I'm getting a little notification from our library system, which is some of it's automated, and says, Cedarburg, you need to buy a few more if you want to be a good steward of our library system. So I bought one or two more. So it's one of those unpredictable ones. Are you
telling me that in small town Wisconsin, there's a kind of Casa Nostra library organization? Nice buying privileges you got there. Something to happen to you.
You know, everyone wants to be a monarch, but it's a shame if you had to be booted from the monarch. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
What happens if you don't agree? Bullets fly through your windshield, and the next line of dialogue we hear is somebody saying, "Take it."
I'm not allowed really to discuss this part, this part on the air. But yeah, let's just put it this way: as anybody who is maybe in front of a Senate subcommittee on organized crime would say, it would be bad, Steve.
Well, when it comes to Jonathan Jesse Kellerman, I haven't read that book.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't read a Jonathan Kellerman book in probably 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
but I can overwhelmingly recommend his first 10 books. And also Faye Kellerman. I can recommend both of them. When they were hustling for a living, when they didn't have a massive built-in audience, when those early books are very, very good. The Alex Delaware books, very good. I assume that he is the type of author where you would not have backstock at the library.
No, we have his whole career on our shelves easily.
Well, you patrons, go and read his book Over the Edge. I know it's got a cliche title, but what a book! What a book!
Nice.
And you know, Faye Kellerman as well. She wrote a thriller in Jerusalem. She also wrote a book set in Shakespearean times that is actually very, very good.
Huh. Oh, interesting. Okay. That would be...
I strongly recommend. I don't know anything about this latest book, and I don't. I think Jesse Kellerman was his daughter.
Must be, yeah, I believe so.
I don't know any. I haven't followed the series at all. I'd be amazed. I'm assuming that Alex Delaware is still trucking along. Definitely start early with this author and read them because they are really smart, textured, well done thrillers.
Good to hear. That's awesome. I will.
The mother-daughter thing I haven't read.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, you have not? No. Okay. I will. I'm curious when one creeps in like this. I like to see what's going on just so I can, because it is very popular in our library. Certainly, I'm seeing it move quite a bit. In fact, I haven't seen it at all lately, so that's always a good sign. We're gonna end up with this, which I did read, and I'm gonna sound very Steve-like in a moment. It's a blurry picture, but it's a book called Horror Movie by a gentleman named Paul Tremblay. I am very conflicted about this particular author. I read his Knock at the Cabin book, which I'm sort of, I think, enjoyed.
Say it. I know exactly.
I hated the ending so much. I was enraged by the ending. I flew into...
You went into classic librarian mode of not wanting to bother anyone, but we're on a show. You can say it. I know exactly.
I've got permission to lose my shit. What is this man thinking? Why would he do that to us? Awful ending.
He thought it was clever. In both books, he thought the ending was clever.
It was an offensive ending. I was offended by the ending, and this one was no different. I thought he was building something really interesting, and he's a fine writer. He's very shall we say, bearing the lead as his black belt power. He does not like to. He hides everything from you. For the first 150 pages. Little did I know he was hiding the fact that he has no story and no ending.
So we have come full circle.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So at the end of his book, he does not either Cabin in the Woods or this one, he does not actually satisfy you by answering your number one question. Yes. And the same thing is true with Melania, because nowhere in her book do we learn the name of the biological father of Baron Trump. So in both cases, you're right. What's going on? Why was I supposed to care about this?
You're right. I don't think the feeling you want to leave your reader with is, why did I come here in the first place? What was I doing here?
Although we're not worried about leaving our viewers with that.
No. Remember,
it's Hypno Vista. It's totally normal if you're feeling that with the show. Don't adjust your dial.
It's all fine. I feel like Paul Tremblay is not popular. He's popular with someone, but every reader I've ever encountered, especially fans of horror, we have ample horror fans they bring him back and they all have the same response. well, this was almost a book. They didn't even say, oh, it's almost a good book. They said this was almost a book.
There are all sorts of institutional reasons for this. I think it's safe to say that although Paul, we can't let him off the hook. He's the author.
Right.
The institutions all along the line are failing him as well. Writing groups no longer care about endings. Workshops don't even teach them. Publishers don't read that far. Agents don't read that far. So the institutions are not helping either.
It's not that hard. If you get
a real strong impression with Tremblay that if he did actually take control of the writing from beginning to end, he could write a great book.
Oh, I believe that too.
Not only a great book, but a massive bestseller. He could write a huge thing. He just won't do it. Because a little nuance here and there that you're not tying up neatly with a bow at the end of your book is one thing, but the way he does it. Not a little nuance that's just being left.
No, it's like someone took a crowbar, brained me with a cudgel. What the hell?
He was saying it's just him wandering off. It's what is referred to in South Boston as an Irish goodbye. Where you're in a crowd of people and you're talking to Sully, and then the next thing you know, he's not there and he's gone.
There's an Irish goodbye for you, buddy. Right. I mean, and they adapted his Knock at the Cabin book into a very well shot in focus movie.
Right. It was well shot. It was in focus, and they had to fiddle with the ending.
Yeah, they did. But
in a movie, you can't do what he did. Your audience would tear apart the movie theater.
Right. Absolutely. And maybe they should. I'm not condoning destruction of property here, but what a strange, but then maybe not so strange. I guess this goes on a lot out there. I just haven't been exposed to it nearly enough, like yourself, who is exposed.
Common, but it's still strange. It shouldn't happen.
No.
It shouldn't happen. This is not in any way an artistic choice. And all the writers who are doing this kind of crap think it is. They think it's an artistic choice. It's not. It's not an artistic choice. You failing as a storyteller. That's just simple as that.
I mean, you have. I hate to use a common term, but you had one job: tell a good story. You didn't have to tell it well, but you at least had to have some, understanding of.
And probably the number one job of a storyteller is not to make your listeners feel foolish for ever having sat down to listen to you. In the first place.
Right, absolutely.
Your most important job as a storyteller is to be a storyteller. Meaning, people are not saying, "Oh, you're never going to fool me again. I'm not going to listen to you anymore."
Right.
So I guess we could say that the fundamental anecdote of all storytelling is the boy who cried wolf. That ought to govern storytelling. All storytelling ought to be that.
Certainly. Yeah, I'm reading a bunch of short fiction.
Does that mean then that we can make it legal for someone to release ravenous, starved wolves on Sally Rooney? Can we do that for Sally Rooney?
Well, I don't know if we're at that point yet, but we're close. Yeah, I'm reading this book of short stories right now, and it's a silly thing called, I think it's called Back in Black. A bunch of writers, one of which is Lee Childs. Yeah, they're using the AC/DC album, and the stories aren't great, but I will say that every single one of them has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I was struck by, and I read it right after the Paul Tremblay book, and I was struck by the fact that these short stories offer so much more than this horror movie novel that I just suffered through.
Whereas you could, if you wanted to, lean into that whole prospect of simply not ending your book. How would you lean into it? Well, maybe you'd give your latest book a title like something, I don't know, Intermezzo? Something like that. Maybe you just announce the fact.
Right. Yes. The next Jeff Messerman book will be called Act 2. No, Act 1.
Right.
Oh, that's terrible. Well, there we go. And I feel a fool because I was so burned by Knock at the Cabin. I said, but horror movie. This sound looks like fun. I like the little VHS tape on the cover. I'm sure he's gotten better.
Again, we can mention institutional failure because apart from fans, the institution ought to be the one to tell you have to get better. We're not going to publish your book if it's like this. And they won't. They don't do it because it has become normal now for authors not to end their books or to end their books intentionally ineptly.
Yeah. There's a gentleman named Chuck Wendig out there. I'm sure you are familiar with him. And he writes these chunkers, these mammoth things. And I read the flaps and I think, oh, this sounds really interesting and compelling. But I'm afraid of him because I feel like he might suffer from the same thing. And I don't know why I've lumped these two authors together, but I might be right.
Wendig's not that bad.
Good.
Absolutely insufferable online, but Wanderers does have an ending. In fact, it has two endings. One is better than the other, but both work. Both
Okay, good.
Work. And
All right.
Wanderers is a huge investment of time. It's actually a very good book.
Huh.
But
Okay.
not quite as bad.
All right. Clearly I chose the wrong door between the two. I was like, I'll go T before W, so I guess I'll do Tremblay first. Damn it. Anyway, wild card time. As if this hasn't been. I think the wild card was at the top of the show myself, but I can't top that.
What a show! At least I got to recommend a couple of books.
I know. I'll see if I can help. Maybe not. We're going to talk about. We already did a little bit. What Jeff has been reading. Horror movie was one of them in the last month or so.
So these are the books that are on the table next to his easy chair when he gets home from a long day of work.
Yes.
Snarping the donuts in the break room and shaking the vending machine. Yes. I don't have video evidence, but I feel certain you're a vending machine shaker.
I'm not just a shaker, I'm a tipper. There's a sticker on every vending machine that says don't do this. I do it.
Our viewers, don't ever be a vending machine shaker. And I know what some of you are going to say, especially if you work in retail. I worked in retail for a long time. You're going to say, well, if I put in the money and the ring only goes so far and the thing tips over onto the glass but doesn't fall, well, then I have to shake the machine. No, you don't. No, you don't. The loss to you is much greater to become a vending machine shaker than it is to be out your money.
But those ho-hos look so good on the package. Are you saying I walk away from the ding dong? I've never done that in my life. Let's talk about this lovely book that made me happy. A gentleman named Jason Rekulak. This is a slightly older title. It's called The Impossible Fortress. He's currently writing some thrillers these days, so I thought I would actually go back to the source. This is his first novel. He's an editor at Quirk Books, and this is a interesting
What is it?
Sort of a rom-com-ish type book. It actually could be filed in YA, although it's not. It's set in 1987 about Commodore 64 game programmers, young high school, and so it is in my. I needed a palate cleanser. It's in my wheelhouse. I was there, and this book was lovely. I had a good time.
I don't think I'm remembering it at all. Is it good? It's good.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. Long in the tooth. It didn't need to be. It's about 285 page count. It should have been about 250. And the ending, it loses sight of itself. It's a first novel. So it naturally loses its way at around the 200.
The hardcover that you've got in your hand?
Nope, floppy one. Yeah, it just came.
Was he a punk when he wrote it? Does it have a picture of him?
Yeah,
was he a punk?
Older. Older, and yeah. And he's had two books since then, both thrillers. So I think he left this kind of Wonder Years, wistful, quirky 1980s thing. But it was lovely. And talk if you're into period detail. He and I were both there, and it just it was a lovely place to visit. And very much brings up the Commodore. If you owned a Commodore 64, many did. Before we all had Commodore 64s in our pockets, it was fun. I had a good time. Yes, Steve.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I've only
ever had one Commodore in my pocket.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's not what you're talking about.
Well, before this show goes there, another palate cleanser. I was doing quite a bit of regression therapy this month, and I visited Lloyd Alexander's The Book of Three.
Oh,
this is a lovely book. This is a lark.
Oh my, that's a lovely paperback there. That's a lovely edition.
It is. 2006.
Wow. Yes. Lloyd Alexander cannot be praised highly enough. And I would argue, I think probably Lloyd Alexander would have disagreed with this, but I would argue that the most effective way you can praise these books is as palate cleansers. Mm-hmm. They are just wonderful. You just pull the warm blanket around you. Do you have a lot of Lloyd Alexander at the library?
We did, and then some librarian who is no longer with us anymore thought it would be a good, because they were the original hardcover editions, probably first editions, but they were a little dinged up, and she thought it would be best to put them in the dumpster. So
in a case like that, a canonical author here, an author who's been often reprinted, you would just wait. You don't have the books anymore, so you would just wait until some publisher comes out with a new run, and you would buy those. One
would think, and I have jockeyed for that just this week because I read this in sixth grade, and I sort of had forgotten about it, and it was funny rereading it again and remembering everything, and it was just it's a lovely thing if you can, as a reader, go back and revisit the books of your early reader years.
I haven't read that book, I'm sure, since before you were born. I'm sure it's been that long since I read.
And it's a series. For those of you who don't, as the Black Cauldron is next, which was adapted into a odd little satanic Disney movie. It was a nice try.
I thought it was charming, but it is odd.
Yeah, it was. Disney wasn't real happy with the results, shall we say? Yes, there's 3 or 4 books after that, but I think Mr. Alexander may have been accused at the time, and maybe you can back this up, of being a Tolkien light or something. He mentions it in his intro, but I don't think that's a knock.
No, you could shrug off that kind of accusation all the way to the bank.
Right.
I'd love it if somebody called this show a Tolkien knockoff.
We're getting there. I would still contend, from what Steve said about the next season of The Rings of Power, that we're doing better than they are.
So. All this show manages ever to be is the first chapter of The Hobbit. Just a bunch of unruly dwarves spilling food everywhere. That's all we ever managed to be. Is the unexpected party. That's it.
You should see what I do. You should have seen what I did to my waffles this morning, everybody. A little more regression therapy. I read these probably late high school, early college.
You need so much regression therapy.
It's been weird at work.
I always tell people, maybe you should just not work. These work are horrible. I never hear anything but negative things about them. Maybe you should just not do it.
We've had people at the copier yelling at the copier.
You know, it's a little unnerving how many of your workplace nightmare anecdotes revolve around the copy machine.
Let me tell you something.
Your arch nemesis at work is not a person.
It is the Eye of Sauron, and it's got the word Toshiba on the front, which was very surprising. And I wanted to revisit Gregory MacDonald, and this is actually a collection.
Is this a clean sweep then for your books, the books that we're talking about from your nightstand? Is this a clean sweep? In other words, all of them, none of them are at the library?
This actually came from a different library. This is in our system, the aforementioned system. This came from the West Bend Community Library, which is out there that-a-way.
And I'm assuming the West Bend plays ball? You know what I mean?
Oh, West Bend has never played ball, sir.
You don't want anything to happen to your nice little outfit here, do you?
Uh-oh. Yes. I feel them looking at us now. That's how I feel about West Bend.
So I assume you read Fletch years ago.
Yeah.
The Fletch books years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Not all of them.
One question. I know you're enjoying them because they're the type of books that you enjoy when you reread. But I'm dying to know, are there any of those 21st century pings? You know, we've mentioned on this channel that, that apart from the blue-haired psychos on Twitter, who we all hate, and rightfully so,
right,
in the real world, real ordinary people, all of us have had our consciousnesses made more sensitive in the last 30 years. That's a good thing. That's an entirely good thing.
Sure.
I'm not saying is this book on the wrong side of history. We still reread these things, but have you barked your shins on anything that?
Oh, ample. Irwin Fletcher's regard for the opposite sex would be seen as problematic, although not problematic enough for them not to try to make a movie as recently as last year. I didn't see it. I heard good things, but I don't know if it's worth a look or not, but they must have defanged Fletch quite a bit for John Hamm to play him on an Amazon movie or however that played out. So, because the one in this book,
I didn't see the movie.
no, nor have I, and I probably
was miscast as Fletch, definitely. But
yeah,
see it.
yeah, absolutely.
Unless he has hidden depths, which let's face it,
Right.
actors never do. But
Right.
then I guess he could do it. But I wouldn't think. I would assume that he will be burlesquing it, and that's I think the wrong approach.
It is. I mean, even the somewhat beloved Chevy Chase film. The Fletch. Yeah.
Fletch, the character, has to be dead serious.
Yes, and yeah,
in order for it to work, it will still end up being funny, but he has to be deadly serious.
Oh yes, and he's amply glib. I mean, you get that, but but it's not elbow to the ribs. It's pretty dark actually, and
you are finding it enjoyable.
I'm loving it.
I guess the phrase we're looking for here is, did it age well?
No, but McDonald must. I think he was obviously a journalist prior to or during the writing of these books, and there's something very refreshing, Paul Tremblay, about a man in command of his story. Yeah, and that's in spades here, and it's wonderful. And these books are rockets. I mean, these are one, possibly two sitting books.
Yeah, that I remember. They're intensely readable. One thing I'm not remembering about his biography is whether or not these things made a difference in his career. Did they make him wealthy? I'm trying to remember.
He's from your neck of the woods, so I don't know.
Blocking on whether or not they made him wealthy. I think they did. The type of thing where in an author's career where they look at their financial life, at least pre and post this thing.
What I glean, sure. What I glean from this is that I think they made him wealthy enough to be able to do it again and again, but I don't think these were ever like bestsellers, or I mean, they probably just sold well at your strip mall B. Dalton.
And what is that edition that you're?
This is cool. This is 3-in-1. You get the first three books in a volume. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's really cool. From Rediscovery Books is the label. I've never heard of such a thing, but it's great.
Rediscovery Books' omnibus of Fletch books got bought by the
West Bend Public Community Library. Yes.
How did they even know about it?
They knew about it back in. Let me see here. This is charming. This is back when they would use a pencil to write what it is. Where do I put this? Let me get my Ticonderoga out. So they knew about it in 1986. That's when this came out. So there we are.
I think that the books at the Cedarburg Public Library are now marked with your blood.
Boy, you got that right, pal.
Use a pen, Sideshow Bob.
Blood, sweat, and tears. And finally, something I had new to me at the end of our summer reading program, the middle school and high school readers get to pick out a free book from our rack if they are successful in completing their reading chart. And I know, Steve, you were successful in completing your reading chart.
Not at all.
Well, I mean now, not
now,
then.
Yes. Back then, I was handed a reading chart and fed it to my dogs. Now, yes. Now I finish reading charts. Definitely.
Oh, absolutely. So this came across the pile, and someone was going to grab it, and I kind of gave him a football move and knocked him out of the way and said, I want that. This is something called Nothing But the Truth by someone named Avi. I knew nothing about this book. It's a Newbery winner, I believe. It's got that little medal there on the front.
I haven't read it. I've read a lot of Avi, but I haven't read that.
I was drawn to it because of this right here. I'd never seen that before. A documentary novel by Avi. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And I'll be damned. It was interesting. It was. The whole book is made up of journal entries and transcripts of discussions to tell the story. And memos, high school memos. It's about a kid who he feels wronged by his English teacher, as were we all. And a strict high school rule is that you are totally silent for the national anthem in the morning when it plays over the speaker. And he hums along with it, gets in a little bit of trouble, and it suddenly balloons into a national affair. It's really interesting, and I think for youngsters at the age this is targeted for who begin to question the truth, Melania. I could see this being a really important developmental book for somebody at that age. In fact, it may have been an important developmental book for someone my age. So it was a fun read. I enjoyed it. Fast little thing. This is even. Yeah.
Do you often add YA to your nightstand?
Seldom. Because I appreciate what they're doing, but I always come away from every YA book saying the same thing. Well, it's not for me. And that comes with having accidentally aged so much, I fear. But I don't read a lot of YA.
Were you made to say the Pledge of Allegiance at school?
I was. Hand over heart.
Yeah, I put my hand over my heart, but I didn't say the pledge. Ever.
Ooh, Donahue, another demerit.
I was a little kid. The pledge ends up by saying one nation under God. And as a little kid, I said, well, there's not any gods. So if I swear to this, knowing that one part of it is not true, well.
Like Joe Pesci said, bang, zoom, ding, bang.
I was a little kid, and I was standing there in the assembly hall, and I was saying, my dogs don't have a God. So there aren't any gods. You made it up. You humans made it up.
God is just my dog spelled backwards.
The backyard don't have a God. The dogs don't have a God. They don't go about their day and then stop and say, oh, wait, I have to commune with an invisible being that no one's ever seen. So I came to it already thinking that invisible being isn't real. None of those invisible beings are real. So I'm not going to swear on my honor, hand over my heart, if that's part of it.
How many conversations in the office did you have then about that?
Nobody ever noticed that I wasn't
really
saying, or nobody ever cared.
Wow.
They never noticed that my mouth wasn't moving.
I feel like they would now. It might come up. And I beg to differ on your whole dogs don't have a God, because I brought a chicken sandwich home last night and my rat terrier was worshiping at the foot of that sandwich. So
I had an old friend once upon a time who you heard an anecdote like that from me, and we went out on a walk and we came back and we were talking about religion, and I said, the reason that I don't hold any truck with this is because dogs don't have any God. And he said, just 15 minutes ago, we were charged by a guard dog who stopped and wanted to lick your face, even though he wanted to tear my head off. So if dogs have a God, it's you.
That's
I don't think of myself as the God of the books of the week.
Well, absolutely. And what do you do with your gods? Eventually you burn them in effigy. So, it's just how it works.
Doesn't do it. This was a failure, just a complete failure. Maybe next week we could talk about some canonical classics at the library, so that Steve would not only have read them but have taught them.
It would be a good idea. I think we owe that to our people and more.
If I don't start to claw back ground, they're going to want you to replace me with Laurie. Instead of me to replace you with Laurie. So,
well, as long as Laurie's still alive by next week, I hope the best. And I, as much as I just said that we owe our patrons something, well, our patrons owe us something. And what might that be? Well, it might be this. If you go over to patreon.com/books of the week and you happen to drop a little change in the kitty, well, you'll get the warm blow from a good deed.
It says Patreon Books of the Week, but the money goes to the Friends of the Cedarburg Public Library. It doesn't go to us.
No.
It goes to the Friends of the Cedarburg Public Library. Both Jeff is at a library and he buys the books for the library, and I'm a book critic. So we both have access to books. We don't need the money of the Patreon. It goes to the Friends.
And because of who we are, we've never had access to money. So this is just our lifestyle. It's fine.
One of the Friends of the Public Library 30 years ago came to the Friends of the Cedarburg Public Library from out of town and said, nice Friends organization you got here. It's a shame if something were to happen to it. And they've been there ever since.
Oh my gosh. I know exactly who that is, by the way. And my shoulder just went back. Whew, man. Anyway, thank you again for tuning in. This was an epic. We may have set a record here, folks. 59 minutes and 35 seconds is the timer on my clock. We almost gave you an hour.
So much grace.
Disgrace. Hey, we gave you nothing but the truth, everybody. So we'll see you next week with canonical classics.
Don't believe it for a minute.
In the meantime, be best.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't give a crap. Bye.